So I was feeling pretty good when I left the hospital, but as just time went along, I wasn't feeling all that good, and I got so bad. It really felt really bad that to the point that I had to go to the ER, and they told me I had a bad infection. So I don't know. I was not feeling very good about that, and then it's kind of made me upset because they told me that the infection was actually probably was there when I left the hospital to begin with, and I feel like that let me down, uh, and I just don't know how they allow this to happen. I thought that I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't want to play some card that people play all the time, so I'll just leave it at that.
Hi, I'm Tracy Walbrinka, resident here at Macy Medical Center. Last year I admitted Mr. Nevato with chest pain. He did fine overnight. I discharged him the next day, no problems, the usual routine. He had a primary care doctor, so I sent him home, told him to follow up with her in a few days. The usual. Then a few weeks later, Mr. Nevato came back, and I had gotten called down to readmit him, and I felt terrible about it. I noticed that he had a UTI, and he came back septic, and the UTI was from his first admission, and no one followed up on it. And I felt terrible because I felt like I should have done something, because he shouldn't be back for the same problem. And yeah, that was a huge problem. The results weren't back before he left the hospital, and they went to the ED inbox and not my mailbox, and I just felt like it was my fault. I was pretty uncomfortable every time I had to go see Mr. Nevato. I felt bad about it. He was mad at me. My attending was mad that he got readmitted, and that shows up badly as the hospital is really tracking these things now. And then I got to thinking that I really don't know what happens when a patient gets discharged, and what are all the steps that come into play, and I wondered if there was something I could do better. When I heard that I had to work on a QI project, I immediately thought of Mr. Nevato. I wanted to learn more about the discharge process. And it was pretty easy to get data on readmissions, but I also had to learn about what happened with the whole discharge process. I knew we write orders, we do our discharge summary, we make appointments for patients, but there's a whole lot of other things that come into play. Someone calls the patients when they go home, but then I didn't know who gets a copy. There were a lot of other things that I just didn't know about what happened with the discharge summaries. And when I looked at our discharge summaries, there was no place to list any pending tests or procedures or investigative studies. It was really helpful to talk to Mr. Nevato. He had a lot of great strategies about how to improve the discharge process for patients. I realized that we didn't have his proper phone number in our system, so nobody actually called him. And his primary care doctor didn't receive the discharge summary that they were supposed to.